But like, we literally just bought this cow, and we're gonna have to sell her. Maybe we can sit on this. Excuse me. Well, hey everybody, it's super hot. We're gonna make this quick. So, she's trying to push me off of this. Ow! Hey! Sorry about that, excuse us. So we just kind of wanted to talk briefly about what our first week of milking was like. We'll show you the stanchion and kind of what our setup was. For backstory, stop, the goats are eating the tripod. For backstory, we got our cow butter in February and she was dry and was due to calve April 2nd. She actually did calve. The goats have knocked over the tripod. She actually did calve on April 2nd. Her actual due date she calved, which is awesome. With this red heifer behind us is actually the her calf. She is a Jersey Angus cross and she's super sweet. We left her on, we calf shear. We're about to stop because she's about to be weaned. But anyways, we calf sheared, and then now we're to the point where she's only on for a few hours in the morning after we milk, and that's it. And then we put her up around anywhere from like noon to 2, and then we go milk out we come back out in the morning and milk. We don't live here. Abby's like 30 minutes, I'm like 20 minutes away. We have a stanchion set up that we did have ready before she calved, but she was really new to us and we were still like getting her used to us and getting her used to hand milking or being around us in general, because she was used to being robot milked, not being handled, and that was tough. So that first week was rough.
It was pretty terrible. We'd had her for 6 weeks dry, and you're not supposed to give them any grain or excess feed when they're dry. You're supposed to give them just your lowest quality hay, enough for them to maintain their body weight, but you don't want to do extra because then that goes to the calf. So she was just on winter pasture at that point, which we have a bunch of like fescue, unfortunately, but at least it gives us some pasture in the winter. So she had that. She had, whatever else was growing at that time, and so she was just out here, and we had some sweet feed, and we would come and give her like a handful every once in a while, a couple times a day, so she could see that we were good and she should come to us. And at first she seriously did not want to be around us. So by the time she calved, we had gotten her to where when she saw us at the gate or she heard the gate, she came running. I mean, literally we have videos of her running, her big udder just swinging around, and her running down the hill to us because she knew we were going to give her scratches and treats. And then a week or two before she calved, we finished the acre pasture we're sitting in right now. So there's about 5 to 6 acres. If you count the wooded stuff, it's about 6 acres up here that she has access to. But we wanted her in a centralized location so when she calved, we could easily be there for it, make sure she wasn't in anything hazardous, make sure that we could get her milked out and stuff. So we had her in here for a couple weeks before. The pasture was a lot better at that point. There's a drought right now, so
it was early spring then.
Don't judge how bad this pasture looks at the moment. And so it was end of March when we did that, and like the day before she calved, we finished the stanchion. And we got her up there one time. It was amazing because usually, we would pet her and stuff, but then when she was done, she just walked off and there's nothing we could do about it. So we knew we needed the stanchion, and we got her up in the stanchion, and we were like, this is amazing. Nothing can go wrong.
Yeah, which by the way, it was really hard to get her in the stanchion.
Yeah. She did not have a halter. There was no way we had tried so many times to get a halter on her. There was no way to get a halter on her.
We had to stand there for like 30 plus minutes with her just eating feed out of a bucket in the stanchion, and we'd have to like shove the head gate closed really fast, and then the other one of us put the pin in because she did not want to be in there. If you even raised your hand near the brace to close it, she would like back out, run away, and we were like, we got to get this cow milked out. Like she had 7 gallons in there. We were like, we have to get her.
So that day that she
out.
calved, she had Sue. It was at like 11:30 or so in the morning, And so we were like, okay, by this evening, we've got to milk her. And we were nervous, and she let us touch her teats and stuff, or her udder. We hadn't really messed with her teats too much, but she let us touch her udder, like out in the field when she was dry. So we were like, I think she's going to be okay, but we just got to get her in the stanchion. So that night, we actually did get her in the stanchion.
Yeah.
It really was not so bad. We carried the cat. We carried Suet. Obviously, she's
we
not
drug her up.
It was she was heavy. Like, she had to have weighed at least 75, 80 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, she was a big calf. And so we had a very difficult drag her up to the stanchion, and Butter actually went in pretty well. We had hay lamps on. It was dark by then.
And she was not aggressive with the calf. Like, we could do whatever with Suet.
From the first moment, she really, and she's not like a very sweet cow, but she really did not care that we were touching her calf.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord. So we got her in the stanchion that night, and we milked her. We hand milked. It was our first time hand milking on our own completely.
It was a mess.
And she had so much edema. She was so swollen. I think we said in another video, like, her teeth were like this big around and like this long.
How long do you think
they were so swollen?
I feel like it took us like 45 minutes of both of us milking together. But also, like, we had never milked.
Yeah,
so
we
we're
didn't really know
both
what
like,
we're
our
doing.
hands are tired. We don't know how to get the milk out efficiently.
Yeah.
We're like, it's going. We have videos. I'll put them up. Like, it's running down the bucket. It's dark.
I was like, how are we ever going to get this milk to be clean?
It was
to
cold.
Be drank?
Yeah.
So it was colostrum at that point. So we kind of were like, okay, we have a little bit of time. It's not that important. So we froze what we felt was clean enough, but we weren't having to like filter it or keep it clean for us to drink. And then that next morning, me and Anna came out. We thought this is going to be so great and easy. And we could not get Butter to come to the stanchion. We could not get her up here.
We were crying, to say the
We
least.
sat on the feed trough and just sobbed together because she was so full and engorged with milk and swollen from the edema. And we knew that Suet was drinking really well, but we knew there's no way this calf can drink
Big
this much
girl.
milk. And we could not get her. And she wasn't aggressive. She wasn't running away. She wasn't scared. She just was like, I'm going to sit here with my calf and I'm not going. Even when we brought the calf up, we just could not get her. She just was confused.
Yeah.
She didn't know what we wanted from her. We didn't even know what we wanted from her. It was awful.
We were crying. We were like, oh, man, we got to sell her. We're like, we literally just bought this cow, and we're going to have to sell her.
Yeah. And then we came like an hour later, and we got her up in the stanchion, and she was kind of dancing around a little bit, so we put a board up behind her rump, behind her.
I wish we had a video of this part, because I put it up, but we don't.
The stanchion was just freestanding at that time, and she backed up, and she broke the stanchion.
She, like, sat on the board and collapsed the stanchion.
We used a pattern that someone had made for their dairy cows and, like, have online. You can Google it. It's out there, and it's a good pattern, and, like, it had braces across it and everything. She pulled back, and it literally, all of the 4 posts holding it up just went swoop, and the whole thing just leaned. And so we, like, were terrified for our lives, thought we were going to get crushed. We got the board out from behind her, opened the head gate, and she went out. And then we had to wait to fix it.
We had to actually pull her lead rope. She had a halter on with a lead rope.
Yeah,
we had to pull it and wrap it around a
that
fence
point.
post that was like maybe 6 feet in front of her, so that Abby could pull the brace board off the back behind her, because she was literally sitting on it. Like, you couldn't pull it up.
It was terrible.
And so I ran up and grabbed her lead rope, and we were like, if we can't get this, like, she's gonna die or we're gonna die.
Yeah.
Maybe all three. I don't know.
And it was at that point. So my husband came and he got the stanchion fixed later that day. So then we got back to where, okay, let's get in the stanchion. We put the 4 corner posts like in the ground, added more braces, added more big metal bolts and all kinds of stuff. We changed the head gate so that we could just slide a bolt in to make it faster.
Yeah.
And we finally
because we were putting a piece of wood on top.
Yeah.
But she would move around so much and jiggle it, and it would literally just fall off. And it wasn't screwed or hinged or anything.
Yeah.
But the bolt system to make a pin that it just goes in, it has been way easier.
So it was really stressful, and then it's like throughout the process we got all these little kinks worked out, and then it got to the point where the grain didn't really work anymore. She didn't want to come to the stanchion for grain, and we were having to like drag her up by her lead. At that point we had gotten a halter on, a rope halter, and we were just letting her drag a lead because you couldn't even get you couldn't even touch her face enough to clip it on. So we eventually like got that lead on, and we just had to drag her up there, and we'd have to wrap around posts and pull her closer, wrap around another post just to like hoist her closer and closer to the stanchion until she got in. And then we noticed her milk had a really off smell and flavor by the end of that first week, and we noticed that it was really weird, and it smelled like her breath.
Which, by the way, I want to add, we were like to the point of almost giving up at this point.
Like we were like, can we get her in the trailer?
We were like,
next
okay,
and
so
we'll just
we're like, finally now we can get milk. Like, because now the colostrum's over, and we're like, finally we can get milk. And then we start drinking it, and we're like, if this is how her milk is gonna taste, I don't want a family cow.
Yeah.
Because it tasted like a tire.
And
like, it was so bad.
And we were giving it to like our children and our husbands, and like letting friends and family taste it, and everybody's like, this milk is sweet, it's so good. And we were like,
is it?
But it actually smells and tastes like a ketchup bottle or like tomato sauce. We're bending into the time. We're like, and so there's a wasp by the phone. Oh gracious!
It's okay. It's going away. It's going away.
And so
Sorry, you can sit.
we were like, what in the world? Why did we just spend all this money and all this time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears for this milk to be nasty? And then it was like she was starting to look really skinny. It was hard to get her in the stanchion for grain. She was still eating grass really well.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've got some ketone strips because I know in goats, ketosis is really common. And so I'd had some for kitten season just in case we had any goats that ended up with ketosis. So I was like, let me test her pee. And I tested it, and it was really high in ketones. And one of the things that made us think it was that her milk smelled and tasted, and it was like, it tasted normal in your mouth, but when we swallowed, it's like in the back of our throat, it had this, it's like we could taste the smell of the milk more so than the milk taste. It was so weird. And I was like, that must be ketosis. And so we had the vet out, and a lot of times with ketosis, you'll have a down cow. So your cow will be down, they don't want to get up, they're lethargic. And that can be a big deal. It's not as big of an emergency as milk fever. Milk fever is like, you got to do something now or they're not going to make it. Ketosis is like, okay, we got to do something, but like we've got a little time. We just need to get her back on her feet and get her eating. So the biggest thing with ketosis is you just need them to eat. You just need them to bring food in, but it can make them go off of grain, which then just makes it worse. Because the issue with ketosis is their body's not getting enough carbohydrates or starches and sugars to maintain what their body needs to function and make all that milk. So their body starts using its fat its fat and muscle stores, and that produces ketones that are then in the blood and in the urine. So our vet said that, from what she could tell, she definitely was in ketosis from the urine. She said she kind of smelled a little bit on her breath, but apparently only some people can smell or taste it. So I guess we're the kind that can, and that was really unfortunate, which my kids said the milk was like the best they'd ever had. My husband loved it. All of our friends and family loved it, but me and Anna could not drink it. Like, I tried making cheese with it. I tried making butter with it, and it just made it worse. Like, it just was worse. The only thing was yogurt. Yogurt, I guess the way the bacteria processes it, it took it out of it. But when I made mozzarella, it was so much worse. So we knew something was wrong. The vet said that since she wasn't down, there was no reason to give her like IV dextrose or anything like that, and that we could just up her groceries. So we started giving her more. We slowly upped her grain. We upped her hay. So that's kind of where we were at the end of that week. We ended up having to do a bit of a treatment for ketosis. So a lot of times what you can do if it's not too bad is you do propylene glycol. We tried that, and it was already hard enough to get her in the stanchion. So to get her in there and then try to give her propylene glycol was literally impossible. We tried really hard. We tried to drench her with it. It just was literally impossible. So then I looked at some studies and reached out to some people, and it turns out that red wine is a treatment for ketosis. It's obviously not enough to produce any kind of drunkenness or buzz for the cow. So we went with what the studies suggested. We did a little research on Google Scholar, and we halved the amount because she's a Jersey and not a big old Holstein like used in the studies. And honestly, that fixed a lot of her issues with the stanchion because she loved it. We got the red wine, we poured it into her grain, and she acted like it was the best thing she'd ever had. And it really taught her that, when I go to the stanchion, it's a really good thing. I get really good treats. And it also made her actually want to eat the grain, because that's, one of the symptoms of ketosis is they'll go off of grain, but they'll still eat hay. But grain was what she really needed to give her the carbohydrates she needed. So we started doing that wine, and that got her out of ketosis. So that was like week 2 and week 3 that we finally started the wine, and it got her out of it. But that first week was terrible. We barely slept because we would get out here really early in the morning to try to catch her. And she was in this acre pasture. It's not like she had this huge range. Like, she was close. but it was just impossible. And luckily we have a good cow and she wasn't trying to kill us by touching her calf or anything, but it was just so difficult and we really wanted to give up. But we were in a couple cow Facebook groups and a lot of those people just said, like, don't give up, like, be consistent, just keep doing the same thing over and over, go at the same time every day. She just doesn't know what you expect of her, so keep showing her what you expect, and then eventually she'll know the pattern and she'll do what you want her to. And now, I mean, we have no trouble. If she sees us, she goes exactly where we want her to go, gets up in the stanchion. There's been times that we've milked and we forgot to close the head gate that holds her head in there, and we milk without it. It really just, you just have to stick it out that first few weeks, especially that first whole month. It'll be a totally different thing after that first month. It was a very different thing for her. She had come from a dairy where they don't raise their calf. She had been, robot milked in a big milking parlor with a bunch of other cows that just follow in a line. Obviously here she was the only cow at that time. She hadn't had her calf yet. And we were expecting her to raise her calf. She's out here in a field. There's no milking parlor. The stanchion doesn't have a roof on it. Like, it was cold in winter-ish, spring, whatever. It was March, April 2nd was when she calved, so it was early April. And it was just a lot on her and a lot on us. And we really were like, we're gonna have to sell her. I mean, we just spent like over $3,000 on this cow, and we're gonna have to sell her for beef prices and eat her, or like give her to somebody because she's not catchable. But that time when she broke the stanchion was when we actually had gotten that halter on her, and that really changed stuff. Letting her have the rope halter on with the lead on, if she had been just out in the 5 acres, we wouldn't have done that because there's trees. But in the acre pasture, there's no trees and there's nothing she could have gotten hung up on. So, and we were coming out here a ton, so we knew, like, her dragging this lead is fine. And it made it to where when she stepped on the lead, she would feel that pressure. And at first she tried to fight the pressure, and then that was just stupid. She didn't go anywhere. She was standing on it. So she learned, okay, I need to go away from the pressure and back up and respect the pressure. And I mean, it really worked like a charm. She's totally halter led now. And we didn't have to walk around and pull her. I mean, we did to get her to the milking station, but it didn't take hours and weeks to train her. We just had the grain and would hold the lead rope, and she would follow the grain with the lead rope. And then once she knew where we wanted her to go and what we were doing, it was fine. And keeping the lead on her, it just taught her not to fight the pressure. Because at first she really did. She acted really dramatic and ridiculous the first time we put it on her. But then after she figured out, okay, like, she was used to stepping on it and knowing she needed to stop fighting the pressure. Thank you. She did a lot. What are you doing? You stretching? Y'all see this cow? Look at that baby. Suet is now trying to be halter trained. I'm working on a video for that. It's going interestingly. Y'all right?
Need some water?
Are you sniffling? Come here. Give you pets. Look at your pets. The good girl. She's so cute, but she's sassy like her mama sometimes. But we are so glad that we stuck it out and didn't give up, because we would not be where we're at, and it is so much better now. Like, I wish I could just go back and tell myself, like, hey, like, in 2 months you're gonna be sitting on a bucket with the calf scratching her neck like this, and your cow is gonna just walk up in the stanchion when she sees you come to the gate, and you're gonna use a cheap milk machine to just milk out 3 gallons a day. Which we can talk more about her supply and stuff, because we actually lowered her supply on purpose. So we can talk to y'all about that a little bit. But that really helped, keep the ketosis from coming back. Look at that girl. Look at that girl. Oh, I love her. I love her. She's a good baby. And one day, hopefully, she'll be a good mama, like her mama. And there's the goats. But yeah, don't give up. If you're in this stage 2 and you're trying to figure out how to get your cow, like, your arms are going to strengthen. At the beginning, you're going to feel like you just never get your cow milked out. You're going to feel like you're milking forever and milk is still somehow coming out. But after a while, we hand milked for 2 months. I think 2 months, we were just hand milking. And I mean, like I said at the beginning, she was making like 7 gallons a day with her calf. Like us milking, we got 7 gallons a day, not counting whatever Suet was getting. And it was a lot to hand milk. Don't be rude. It was a lot to hand milk, a lot. And our arms were so tired all the time. But eventually, it would take 30 minutes, 20 minutes. No, ma'am. And now we're machine milking, so it takes a lot less than that. But it gets better, and you're gonna make tweaks to your system. You're gonna fix little things all the time, and you're always gonna be making improvements to your system, how you milk, how you clean, all that stuff. So just don't give up. It's gonna get better. Keep going. Keep trying to improve every day. Not just with your milk cow, but just in life. But I think it also applies to this. So, once again, this is the Hen Twins. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.